All right, let's dive right in. We're going to be looking at a really fascinating concept from a screenwriting guidebook today. It's this unseen force that, if you're not paying attention, can quietly, totally sabotage your entire story.
You know that feeling? You're deep into writing and suddenly something's off. Your characters, who felt so real a minute ago, now feel like they're just puppets on a string, only there to serve the plot. Maybe your whole story has started to wander off in a direction you never even wanted it to go. It's a super common problem, and it's incredibly frustrating.
So, what's really going on here? Well, the guidebook we're digging into today says it's probably not a flaw in your plot, and it's not a lack of imagination. Nope, it's something way more subtle, something happening right at the heart of your character dynamics. And this, right here, is the culprit. The guidebook points to this one often totally invisible mistake. We fail to maintain the organic distance between our characters. And when we ignore it, this little thing can unravel even the best laid plans for a story.
So, what in the world is organic distance? Let's break down what the source is talking about here and why it's pretty much the secret ingredient to a story that feels balanced and, believable.
So, organic distance has nothing to do with how physically far apart characters are. It's all about the psychological and, the philosophical gap between them. It's making sure that every character is working from their own unique set of values and beliefs. That's what drives how they act and react. It's what makes them feel like real, independent people instead of just, plot devices. Now think about it. A typical screenplay is a crowded place. The source points out that you're often juggling somewhere between 12 and 15 different people with speaking roles. Trying to manage the unique worldview of every single one of them, that sounds exhausting, right? But here's the good news. You don't have to. You don't need to track everybody with that same level of intensity. The guidebook says to just focus on a core group of about 5 people, your protagonist, your antagonist, and maybe 3 other key characters who are in their orbit. This is your story's center of gravity. You get the distances right with this group, and the rest of your cast will naturally fall into place. So, what are the stakes here? What actually happens when you drop the ball on this? When that crucial distance between your characters starts to shrink? Well, the consequences are pretty severe. And what's wild is the domino effect. See, when that distance collapses, your characters, they lose what makes them them. They stop acting based on their own values and just become these mindless followers of your hero or your villain. And that doesn't just feel weird to an audience. It makes them fundamentally distrust the entire world you've built. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. You've got 2 paths your story can take. On one side, if you maintain that distance, you get a balanced narrative with characters who feel real and independent, and that earns your audience's trust. But on the other side, if that distance fails, you get a one-sided story filled with puppets, which just leads straight to the audience checking out. And oh, it gets worse. This isn't just a character problem. We're talking about a potential plot catastrophe. The source makes it really clear that when your characters all start thinking and acting the same, they can literally hijack your story, steering it off a cliff into a completely different and usually much weaker direction than you ever wanted. Okay, so we've seen the problem, we know the stakes are high, but the great news is the guidebook gives us a really clear, straightforward strategy to keep this from happening. Let's look at the actual practical way to maintain that balance. It really boils down to this simple 3-step process. First up, before you do anything else, you have to define the core values for each of your main characters. What do they believe in? What's their personal code? Second, every single thing they do, every choice they make, has to grow out of those values. And third, and this one is so important, this isn't something you just set up and forget. You have to be constantly checking in, monitoring these distances as the story moves forward, making sure they don't get too close or too far apart for no good reason. So let's bring all this back home. With this whole framework in mind, it's time to turn that lens right back around onto your own story, the one you're working on right now. I want you to ask yourself this one simple, but honestly, game-changing question. Just look at the 2 most important people in your entire story, your hero and your villain. How far apart are they, really? Not just what they want, but their core values, their methods, how they see the world. The answer to that question, well, that might just be the key that unlocks your story's true potential.